Hey, Pokemon Masters, Birdkeeper Toby here. Gotta catch 'em all. Recently on Alpha Sapphire, I've been trying to complete my own Pokedex. The Pokedex is an amazing device that allows you to store the data of up to 721 different varieties of Pokemon. That's everything from Bulbasaur to the Volcanion, still to be released but hidden in the game's code. The Pokedex also stores data about the various forms of different Pokemon, some of which are only accessible in battle, like Mega Evolutions. But it got me thinking, how many are there, and could you really catch them all? Now I'm going to put a counter on screen if you want to follow along, and if you are interested, the maths that we use to work all this out will be in the description, but let's begin with 721 Pokemon. Wait, no, let's make that 720. I'm going to take one away, which I promise will be added back later. Now, combining Mega Evolutions and Primal Reversions, that's an extra 50 Pokemon on top of the original 721, plus 237 varieties, forms of Pokemon, some of which are only accessible in battle, like the cast forms, weather changing, or the Arceus holding its different plates. All of these are Pokemon variations that are accessible in Generation 6 of Pokemon, so anything that was available only in past generation, or in side games, or in the anime, I am not counting. Whew, boy, that is one shiny Crystal Onyx. And actually, that's something we need to take into account. Shiny Pokemon. That should double the amount of Pokemon we currently have, because every Pokemon has a shiny counterpart, except 19 of them are shiny locked. That means without hacking, you cannot get these Pokemon in their shiny forms in the current generation of Pokemon. So we'll double our number and minus the 19. What we're left with is 1,995 Pokemon. A lot of critters, but not an uncatchable amount. In fact, thanks to the magic of Pokemon Bank, you could store up to 3,000, so if all of these different forms were storable and not only accessible in battle, you could catch them all. However, a few individual Pokemon messed this up. For example, Ditto. Ditto is a Pokemon known for its ability to transform into another Pokemon, but as seen in the show, when a Ditto transforms into another Pokemon, it doesn't become that Pokemon, it becomes the Ditto version of that Pokemon. So I'm counting all Ditto transformations and shiny Ditto transformations separately. Now you may think Ditto is the only Pokemon capable of transforming, however Mew can learn it, and Smeargle has access to it through his move Sketch. Also, the Pokemon Zoroa and Zoroark are also shapeshifters with their abilities Illusion. Double that number for shiny Pokemon and we have 10 Pokemon that are the masters of disguise. So we take these 10 Pokemon and multiply it by 1994, not 1995, we have to minus 1 because of course a Pokemon transforming into itself is still just itself, and then add 1995, the original Mons at the end. 21,935 Pokemon. It's a lot of Pokemon, but actually doable. If you had 24 copies of the game, you could, if you had the patience and of course the skills to catch all those shiny mons, catch them all. Except there is one Pokemon, our mystery mon from earlier, that changes the sum quite dramatically, and that is Spinda. Okay, so this is where the maths gets really tricky, and again I'll leave everything in the description if you're interested, but just to give you some idea of the numbers we're working with, there are over 4 billion forms of Spinda. This is due to Spinda having different spot variations. Its spots are all over its body, and depending on the individual hidden values within the game's code, it'll have a different pattern. And yes, people other than myself have worked out that this is how many different forms of Spinda you can access. Man, it's a good thing I'm not including natures and different move pools in this video. However, the number we get is still astronomical when you consider that, first of all, we have to double the 4 billion Spinda for shiny Spinda. But we do have to bear in mind that there are 10 Pokemon that can transform into any one of these Spindas at any time. So, of course, we multiply by 10, plus we add 8 billion plus Spinda, the original lot that aren't the transformed versions. And don't forget, we need to add our original 21,000 Pokemon. So, once we've done all the sums, add it all together, what we're left with is the amount of catchable Pokemon within the game, which is 94,489,302,447 Pokemon. We did have some extra thoughts when coming up with this video. Back just one generation ago, the moves Metronome and Assist could become the move Transform, and that meant there was a wider variety of Pokemon that could transform into other Pokemon. And by the way, one of those assist learning Pokemon is Spinda. That means each individual Spinda, each different spot variation, shiny, non-shiny, could transform into all the others, and all the other Pokemon that could learn Assist and Metronome could transform into them. I'm going to leave all our calculations in the description in case you're interested, but if Metronome and Assist moved across to the current generation and operated the same way that they did in Generation 5, the amount of Pokemon available to you would be 73 quintillion, 786 quadrillion, 976 trillion, 286 billion, 248 million, 271,872. And to put that into perspective for you, if you could literally store all these Pokemon in boxes at 912 storage slots per game, it would take 78 quadrillion copies of the game, more than have ever been produced. As of making this video, the amount of people on the planet, each person would need to own upwards of 10,000 copies of the game to make it viable, and at the retail price of $40 per game, it would cost over $3 quintillion, more than has ever been in circulation. So there you have it, make sure you're stocked up on Pokeballs, and hey, gotta catch them all. Thank you for nearly 2,000 subscribers. It's such an impressive feat in such a small amount of time. And hey, if you're a first-time viewer and you're new here, feel free to join for more mind-boggling Pokemon stuff. There may be as many of us here one day as non-shiny Spinda. Yeah, right. And if you're still not sure about joining, if you haven't seen my video about Red Eyes freezing you to death, make sure you check that out, or my live-action Pokemon trailer, which I suggest you do. I also need to give a huge shout out to Axellian and a crowd called Klaus who helped me with the calculations for this video. It's all in the description if you're interested. It's time to fly away now, and hey, gotta catch 'em all.